Pacifica Radio, I'm Scott Baba. Lebanon's Hezbollah has fired scores of rockets into northern Israel to avenge the killing of a top commander. The massive barrage today escalated regional tensions as the fate of an internationally backed plan for a ceasefire in Gaza hangs in the balance. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the region to push a ceasefire proposal with global support that has not been fully embraced by Israel or Hamas. The militant group submitted its first official response late yesterday, requesting numerous amendments to the deal, some of which Blinken said were workable and some not. Speaking to reporters in Qatar today, Blinken said the U.S. and other mediators will keep trying to, quote, close this deal. Hezbollah, an Iran-backed ally of Hamas, has traded fire with Israel nearly every day since the 8-month-long Israel-Hamas war began, and says it will only stop if there is a truce in Gaza. Sustained Russian attacks on Ukraine's power grid in recent weeks have forced the government to institute nationwide rolling blackouts. Charles de Ledesma reports.
In the capital, Kyiv, generators litter the streets, buzzing loudly as businesses and residents try to continue their normal lives despite the power outages. Alexander Solovey, owner of the coffee shop Informatika, says the rolling blackouts are impacting customer numbers and his bottom line. Solovey continues, "We have created an uninterrupted internet connection from a battery, and people still come and work here. Everything is fine, but we cannot provide a full range of drinks and products." This week, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky appealed for short-term help in repairing his country's electricity network and long-term investment in its energy system. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
A fleet of Russian warships and aircraft have begun entering the Caribbean in what some see as a projection of strength as tensions grow over Western support for Ukraine. The U.S. military expects the exercises will involve a handful of Russian ships and support vessels, which may also stop in Venezuela. Russia is a longtime ally of Venezuela and Cuba, and its warships and aircraft have periodically made forays into the Caribbean. But this mission comes less than 2 weeks after President Joe Biden authorized Ukraine to use U.S.-provided weapons to strike inside Russia to protect Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city. The House is expected to vote on a resolution holding Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress for refusing to turn over audio of President Joe Biden's interview in his classified documents case. It is a move that comes just weeks after the White House blocked release of the recordings to lawmakers. The contempt action represents House Republicans' latest and strongest rebuke of the Justice Department and of Garland's leadership, and it's playing out against the backdrop of an extraordinary conflict over the rule of law that has animated the presidential campaign. But it remains uncertain if House Speaker Mike Johnson can garner enough support on the floor to pass the contempt resolution, as Republicans have the slimmest of majorities. Top Republicans are lining up behind a proposal put forward earlier this year to require proof of U.S. citizenship for voter registration in federal elections. But according to the results of a new survey released yesterday by the Brennan Center for Justice, Vote Writers, PublicWise, and the University of Maryland's Center for Democracy and Civic Engagement, for millions of U.S. citizens, it's not easy to prove their citizenship with a document. Catherine Carley reports.
Despite a lack of evidence, Republicans say non-citizens voting threatens U.S. democracy. Texas Congressman Chip Roy says his bill requiring proof of citizenship to register or vote in federal elections could save the country.
This is about the rule of law, ensuring the integrity of elections, and the simple proposition that only citizens should vote.
A new survey shows 28 million eligible voters can't quickly access a passport, birth certificate, or naturalization papers. I'm Catherine Carley for Pacifica Network and Public News Service.
Today marks the 8th anniversary of the attack by gunman Omar Mateen at the Pulse nightclub in Florida. Survivors and relatives of the victims of the 2016 massacre had hoped by now to have a permanent memorial in place at the site, but scaled back plans for a memorial to the 49 people killed and 53 wounded in the attack on the gay-friendly club in Orlando are only just getting off the ground. A private foundation with ambitious plans for a multi-million-dollar memorial and museum has since disbanded, and last year the city of Orlando purchased the nightclub property for $2 million. It has since outlined more modest plans for a memorial. I'm Scott Baba for Pacifica Radio.